And we are live. Yes. So I wanted to thank everyone who is joining us today live on LinkedIn and also on YouTube, and also who will be watching us on YouTube or LinkedIn or on another platform later when you have time. So, why have we gathered here today? I joined LinkedIn's community just this year, and when I realized how effective it was for me, just for a solopreneur, how I built business connections, partnerships, I began discussing the impact of LinkedIn for my clients in revenue automations. So they definitely admitted they should be doing that. They understood that social selling is operation itself. However, they encountered this wall where they just didn't know what to do apart from cold direct messaging that a lot of companies are doing. And it just usually what it does, it just destroys their reputation. So, in response to this challenge, I thought that I gathered so many tactics, what works for me. There's no better way to impart knowledge on business community than through valuable and information-packed LinkedIn event. But the only one thing that was missing was the collaborator. I don't like to do these events alone. I always have, a partner that I trust that makes this event, more valuable and more interesting. So I started searching for a partner who shares values like healthy growth and who understands that there are organizational social selling needs. And I came across Alex. So time for confession, Alex. I never mentioned that to you, but I found you actually on Apollo's website article in their series Meet the World's Bestsellers. And I loved how they presented you. I loved the story, philosophy major turned account executive. And I really loved the phrase, weirdo poet who belongs in the forest. Once I read that article, I was like, that's it. I have to contact him. Maybe he will just tell me, yeah, like I'm out of your league. I don't care. At least I will try. I didn't have any expectations, but Alex is amazing. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to engage in this conversation with him. And he's a genuine social selling expert. So he has been instrumental in assisting companies with their social selling efforts. And he also built a tool to implement their social selling operations, as well as he is offering agency services to support their efforts. So, Alex, tell us why it's critical today, 2023 autumn, the final quarter, for companies to start taking the social selling seriously.
That was a great intro. Thank you. I think that more and more we're seeing the traditional game get tougher and less effective. There's so many things that teams are still doing because it used to work 10% of the time, and then it worked 5% of the time, and it's still working 0.5% of the time. So a lot of teams are just saying, let's do more of the same thing, because if we just plug in more, even as our conversion rate drops, we'll still get some stuff at the bottom of the funnel. It's still going to work a little bit. And what I've seen with teams that are okay with accepting that things have changed is they're saying, we're open to new ways of looking at this. We're going to look at LinkedIn for our sales teams not as just a place to send more messages or a place to just get data, or worse, a place where sales teams shouldn't be going because that's where recruiters are and don't leave the company. And they're instead opening their eyes to what we've been calling social selling for a long time, which is the building up of credibility, highlighting customer results, and then taking interactions offline and seeing these high quality, high converting opportunities result from that. And so I call social selling helping people publicly. And if your company is offering something new to the market, if you're teaching people something, if you have a unique value prop, then you have a way to help people publicly. And it can be a lot more effective than just doing these private one-on-one cold interactions that a lot of companies are still relying mostly on to develop their business. So that's why it's so important to at least understand social selling in this year, even more than it was 5 years ago.
Is it too late? Because what I'm getting from my clients a lot, they think that's too late. Everyone is already on LinkedIn. My competitors on LinkedIn, and I see they're doing great, so they will just steal my traffic. I heard everything.
Yeah, I have too. People have been asking if it's too late for quite a while. I think people will continue to ask if it's too late also for quite a while.
Is it like excuse? It's like a psychological trick, to self-sabotage, isn't it?
I think so. I think it's a reason to not start. And there are plenty of companies, plenty of people, individuals that have, I mean, you yourself said you just joined LinkedIn really earnestly in the last year, and it's already really working for you. So it wasn't too late for you. For people who use Aware, for people who are just coming on the scene, people who had a large audience but then let it go dormant and are coming back. Because only 1% of people post at all, and few of those post consistently or well, you're really looking at a fraction of a percent of people who are doing this well. And going from into that is not a saturated market at all. It can seem like it because social media feeds have a way of making you feel a little bit of FOMO. And LinkedIn has this like professional FOMO, right? Like, is it too late for me to also develop my business? Should I just pay LinkedIn a bunch of money in ad spend? Well, they would really like you to just give them all your money, but that's not a bad idea, but you shouldn't neglect building your own presence. So no, it's not too late. That is an excuse. And if you have a method, it's much easier than if you're just saying, I need to start, and you're overwhelmed about, well, what should I actually do? So the method is the important part. You have to actually start with confidence.
Okay, so in order to have confidence, we definitely need to have, as you say, method, I call them operations or workflow. So what we will be doing in this webinar, we will be covering in general overview, what are those LinkedIn efforts first. And then what we will do, we'll focus primarily on commenting. It sounds like almost like a crazy thing, like all webinar about commenting. But once you see, my stories, Alex will share his stories, how commenting transformed our business, how it helped us grow, then I think a lot of you will change your mind and will understand that this is literally a gold mine. I call commenting on LinkedIn a gold mine. Everyone who asks me. So in general, LinkedIn gives you a lot of tools and a lot of angles to reach your target audience and to generate leads. Yes. And the 5 areas that come to our minds in terms of efforts and the activities themselves are commenting, creating your own content, DMs, engaging with your audience when you are posting your own content, and events and newsletters. Because if you are accessing creators tools, you get access to these amazing tools like audio event, live event, the one that you're attending now and watching us on LinkedIn. And you also can send newsletter to everyone who subscribes on LinkedIn to it. So when we are looking at this pie chart, this is not based on any kind of statistics, on any kind of, study done. This is something that literally came from my sort of gut feeling, how much time you should be spending on these activities based on return on investment. That's how I'm seeing that. If you asked Alex, if you maybe ask someone else, they would have different percentages of it based on what works for them. A lot of people are not even tried events on LinkedIn. So it could be like, for them 2% right here and commenting them like 70%. Just today, I read one LinkedIn post where I don't remember his name, but he's really the guy on LinkedIn. So what he did, he said he's commenting 9 hours on LinkedIn. So I
Wow.
don't know, like how his pie chart would look like.
9 hours a day.
But
I can't imagine.
yes, 9 hours. I don't know how he's still alive. I hope he's okay. But
Yeah.
yeah, but basically, commenting in terms of return on investment will always be the biggest part of this pie chart. Again, creating your own content, it depends what type of content you create. If every time you create, like movie studio level video, that could take a lot of time. But in general, again, if we are talking about reaching the audience, demonstrating your knowledge and adding value to community, commenting that's sort of the biggest part of the pie chart. So how to organize your LinkedIn efforts? What are the benefits? As Alex just told us, it's all about demonstrating your credibility and being noticed for that credibility. Because a lot of us, we just carry that, big bucket of knowledge we gather in years and years in business, in industries, in technology. Like, for example, me, I spent 7 years working with thousands of companies, and I never shared anything, like literally. I barely wrote an article about it. And, I just before writing on LinkedIn, I didn't know that I have so much to share until I started writing. Once you start sharing, then you sort of unleash that ideas flow. So commenting is definitely demonstrating your credibility. You are feeding the algorithm to show more of your content. So this one is interesting because if you just post and if you don't comment on others, algorithm will not reward you, as we can say, yes? Like they basically, LinkedIn algorithm does not like people who just post and they do not contribute to other posts. So that's the truth. And of course, you can start relationships with other creators. So that happened a lot to me, that through comments, I got partnerships, both referral partnerships, event type of partnerships. And I've started building a lot of business relationships with other creators. And this is very important for any kind of business, not just creator type, but technology business, software companies, medical devices companies. I have this client from medical device industry that, through commenting, he built relationship with investor and just got 10 million funding just because they met in the commenting section. That is a crazy story, but that is what is happening. So again, I mentioned that there's going to be no motivation, but if those stories that we are talking about are not motivating you, then nothing can help you, as I say.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about commenting challenges. What are the main challenges that you heard from your side, from your clients and everyone else that are talking about the commenting that they should be doing, but they can't be doing that? Like, what is happening?
A lot of people don't have a system for all of these things. Which post should they comment on? Should people just open up their LinkedIn feed and try and find valuable things to comment on? And then how do they track all this effort? How does it not devolve just into social media scrolling? I think that's the one thing that managers don't want, is just to say, okay, let's use LinkedIn strategically. And then their team just starts scrolling and clicking and just commenting at random, because that would be almost the worst thing.
Or liking emojis. I had one client who said that, he had like 3 sales reps working, and he said, oh, we tried that, but they then just started just liking and commenting on like almost like really stupid posts, like personal development, fitness type, and they're just everyone just wasted time.
Exactly. Yeah. It should be commenting on posts that have to do with the core thesis of what you sell at the end of the day. And some of it can go outside of that. I mean, it's important to be a human. I never want people to only always talk about exactly what they sell and never show who they are, because at the end of the day, people buy from people they like and trust. And so you do need to spend some time being likable and trustworthy. Um, but a lot of that comes into figuring out how to not make it just an exercise in letting the LinkedIn social media feed hijack your brain and get you to just scroll and consume more ads. Because remember, the feed is designed for you to consume ads. Like every social media feed is designed for you, the user, to essentially be the product for advertisers. So we need to flip that around and realize that the feed is not necessarily the most efficient way to approach commenting, because it doesn't really organize the efforts as much as you need to, and you can't track it. So you have
One
to.
thing that I noticed about LinkedIn feed recently is that, at least for me, it's pushing mainly collaborative articles, contributions. That's what I noticed. And pushing and stopped even pushing people that I used to comment on. Like it's like I feel like I'm losing quality because I'm always inspecting. Like is the feed, like I feel that LinkedIn's feed decreased in quality, if that makes sense.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, some of the. I don't obviously know exactly how it's built and why it changed the way it did,
Yeah.
but it seems like we're doing a bit more of feeding their AI more than we are benefiting, which again makes sense. Remember that we're the product, not the customer, unless you are paying, in which case, whole different
Yeah.
ballgame with Sales Navigator, which we'll get into. But I'd much rather have a feed that I control rather than one where it's just I'm part of the system and whatever changes that they make are completely altering my. I mean, imagine if your CRM was free, but they changed it every once in a while, so you were prospecting totally different leads than before. It would be ridiculous, right? But that's the same thing with the feed. If
That's
you're trying to use it,
great. That's great comparison. I love it.
like
Yeah.
you can't use it for a sales strategy if it's changing based on essentially an AI black box that you're not aware of the rules of,
Yeah.
because then you can't rely on the feed to keep you according to your strategy. You need to control it if you want to have it be according to your strategy.
Yeah, exactly. And so LinkedIn feed is definitely busy. Another thing that I noticed is there's lack of tools or knowledge how to organize targeted accounts and even what are those targeted accounts. So very often clients just limit themselves, to looking at the potential clients' accounts. That's like the biggest mistake I noticed that they're doing. And then what they see is that a lot of those target accounts, they are not, if they are like client target accounts, they don't even post on LinkedIn. And they say, okay, what if you don't post on LinkedIn? Like, where should I comment then?
Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest problem that people seem to have with this is they assume that the strategy can be applied to every account, and that's just not true. Some accounts you're not going to be able to reach as nearly as well on LinkedIn, and you're
Yeah.
better off calling them and doing some DMs. But even those accounts that don't post and you can't comment on, they'll still log into LinkedIn and they'll see your comments and other people's posts. So it's kind of about being seen in the industry. And then some people who are active, right, you can actually just build a relationship with them directly. Some people who are inactive but still logging in, you can get your name, your face, your brand recognized by them because they'll have seen it, either in your post, your comments, or both. They'll have seen you ideally interacting with others like them. And the moment a VP of marketing sees you interact with 5 other VPs of marketing and they just sort of conclude that you are somebody trustworthy, it makes whatever outreach you do to them a lot easier. So it doesn't have to apply in the same way to every single account, nor should it. But this is kind of like a size and shape of net that works with this group of people and helps with this other group of people. But it's not like it's not something to replace your entire marketing and advertising strategy. It doesn't have to
Yeah,
be.
that's for sure. That's for sure. Another thing, of course, we see that they don't know what to comment. And the first mistake everyone makes is that every comment is that's a great post. That's a great post, or I love this, or they just ask question that doesn't give any value, or they simply just like it, because
Yeah.
I even know that there's a big myth that if you like the post, you still get that visibility. So I mean, you sort of do, but no.
Yeah.
That's the worst strategy. If you just like 100 posts, that's the worst strategy. And for managers and for directors of demand generation, sales, revenue operations, they never know how to evaluate that team's effort. So there's no analytics for them to show and how to track those KPIs, how those comments are increasing our team's profiles visibility, our other post visibility, and is it correlating to the increase in leads, in revenue, how to see that. Because I had one very motivated revenue director just a year back, and he said that the only reason why I'm not doing this is because I have no way to report that to the CEO, and he's like numbers guy. He wants me to report, like, if I'm doing something, it has to be very like a dashboard. Like every action has to be a very numerical dashboard. So this is a very important challenge, because we are talking about operations, we are talking about the team's effort. So we have challenges. Yes. Now, the first thing that comes to everyone's mind is Sales Navigator. Sales Navigator must be effective at social selling because it's LinkedIn social Sales Navigator. So can we use a Sales Navigator effectively for commenting, Alex?
Not for commenting. It's good for a lot of things. And I still pay for it. I've been paying for it for, 7 years, basically, if not longer. But it doesn't make it easy to use a commenting strategy. It's good for, well, a lot of people have good strategies around Sales Navigator for mapping out a list of target prospects painstakingly one by one, and then kind of tracking everything they do and using a very more heavy duty account based approach with, can I get intros from other people in my team? Am I looking at everything they do, DMing them with company announcements that are coming out? It's better for a strategy where you have a very small number of target prospects that you're working at any given time. But if you try to use it for commenting, you're just by virtue purely of how many tabs you have to open and how many clicks you have to make, you're going to spend 3 times as long at least using Sales Navigator for commenting as you would another tool. Even a spreadsheet would be, somewhat more effective than Sales Navigator for pure engagement. So it has its uses. I'm still a customer of Sales Navigator and I recommend it, but not really for this exact behavior. So for commenting, it's a little bit weak. In fact, we built Aware, our tool, precisely because we wanted Sales Navigator to do a better job of commenting, and it didn't. So we built that tool kind of to fit that specific need, not trying to replace Sales Navigator, but to say, well, Sales Nav is great for list building, for some data, for tracking, for high-level account mapping, but for your pure engagement behavior, it's really slow and clunky. So I don't think
it's very slow. I was surprised. I tested it for their alerts and bookmarks. Like for the lead lists, bookmarks, and alerts, and most posts that was shown was late like 4 to 5 hours on my LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So I was shocked about that. I was like, I added 100 people I wanted to track their posts on, and it literally just showed me 4 or 5 hours later. All of those. It wasn't like, I don't expect it to be the second, but 10 minutes would be nice.
Yeah.
Or is it like, you're paying such, it's expensive tool for a lot of companies. If they are getting Sales Navigator for each of their sales executive, it still adds up, to all the tech stack budget. And I was surprised that it was just always late for that. Another thing is, of course, you can't synchronize the comments and list in your CRM. You need to add prospects list one by one. You can't filter them. That's not good in terms of filtering when you are trying to reach specific lists. You can't track number of comments left. So this is very important because, as I said, a lot of companies, they have KPIs for their sales operations, and they are important. They have to have it, otherwise they will not know what is truly working, and that is not the way to run business. There's no focus mode. Everything is just, in your face, so it's really hard to comment. And you can easily lose lists on Sales Navigator. So what happened to one of my clients' team is they upgraded their Sales Navigator and they somehow went to another plan, and all their lead lists, including the bookmarks that they used to track to sometimes like and comment, it was just gone. So he was like literally crying, like we had another plan to configure CRM, and he was like, I am busy building another list that we just built because it was just lost. So yes, I also use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, but definitely not for commenting. It has great lead list building capabilities. It's amazing in terms of, the filtering context. It's amazing that it has filter where you can see people who are active on LinkedIn. So I really like that, and it's always easier to reach those. But today we're talking specifically about commenting efforts, and that is the reason why we can't, unfortunately, recommend Sales Navigator here. So what are the steps to launch? Because the goal today is for you to be able, after this webinar, to take this knowledge and just start commenting. Yes, you can have a meeting maybe today, maybe tomorrow with the team, and say, I have the steps that we have to implement in order to start this really great campaign today. So the first step is choose the right tool. Yes, and the right tool is, Alex?
We built Aware just for this, and I haven't yet come across a tool, and I've used a lot, that are really focused on commenting and engagement. I was a customer of Shield for quite some time, which is great for analyzing your performance. And what I found was I was just logging in once every 3 months to kind of check on my performance, and then I would go, great. And then I would leave it for 3 months. And then LinkedIn came out with a lot of the same features. So I can just check my performance anytime I need to. But it wasn't letting me do things. Like I couldn't actually do anything with it. I could just sort of look at stuff. So we built Aware to let people do the commenting. So it's solving that problem of saying, we're going to get you in focus mode, not in the LinkedIn feed where you're having ads and distractions, but we're going to get you focused on the right lists of people where you can build very targeted lists and then just engage with them right there in kind of a rapid fire mode. So we're not automating the writing of your comments. What we were doing is showing you the exact places to comment on and letting you work through them very fast. So it's a much faster way to approach the literal behavior of commenting. So you can, if you were spending an hour a day commenting, you'll probably spend 15 minutes. And that's what some people have reported that they save is about 45 minutes a day saved of commenting time. For those who are actually using it as a strategy to generate business, they're just doing it in much less time. So that's the reason we built Aware, is for this.
So that's a lot. Let's say if we have a team of 5, sales executives doing that, it's 5 hours per day saved per team, and that's 25, per week. That's a lot. That's 100 hours per month.
Yeah, if commenting is part of the strategy, and you're already spending time on it, and you're seeing, okay, this is working, this is generating business for us. We're just coming in and saying, this will be a time saver and an orchestrating effort for you, tool for your effort. So yeah, that's what we're focused on, is saving people time to do this amazing strategy, but having it not take so damn long, like the guy who spends 9 hours a day. And I've heard of that before, people spending like 3-4 hours a day. Yeah. And I don't spend that much time on LinkedIn. You might think I do because I'm like a social selling person, but I really don't spend more than 30 minutes a day on LinkedIn. And by design, I have other stuff to do. I mean, it's social selling.
You have business to run, yes.
Exactly.
You have business to run, yes.
So we don't want you to be spending hours and hours a day on LinkedIn necessarily. Better to use a tool that can condense the time you spend to get all the stuff done you need to get done.
Exactly, because we have to be productive if we want to keep doing that, because this definitely is, the strategy is not giving you results in 1 week, isn't it? Like, I mean, for me, I saw results in 1 month, but maybe I'm just miracle case. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't want to overpromise people, yes, but it's all about doing it, every weekday. So you have to make sure that you don't burn out. I see a lot of people who just burn out of LinkedIn and they just leave and that's it.
Yeah.
And all that effort is lost. Okay, so we have the right tool to use. Now let's talk about the 7 types of lists that they should be building in order to really reach that highest potential in terms of lead generation. Because as I mentioned before, a lot of people think that they have to build just the target accounts, target prospects lists.
Yeah, I think that's a great list to build. But, well, first of all, so you want to build a target account prospect list. For the engagement list, you want to build people who are prospects that are active on LinkedIn. So this is your list of people who you're going to comment on directly to build direct relationships with prospects. But I found that most of the business that comes from social selling comes from not from doing that. It comes from other people who are in the surrounding area. Picture LinkedIn like a conference, but happening online. Walking up to the person you want to do business with and just like beelining to them and shaking their hand and saying we should work together isn't usually the way that it happens most of the time. It's things like the number 2 list to customers and referral partners. You walk up to your customer and say it's been great working with you. And then the person in number 1 sees that interaction in number 2,
Yes.
and that's how they're seeing, oh, this person, these people work together. This person, the social seller, must be trustworthy.
Yeah.
So building your customer and referral partner list is actually where I spend most of my time. Is people who could have or might refer us business, or are kind of in the same tangential area of what we do. And I engage
So
with
one
them.
example could be for, let's say, if you are targeting technology companies, let's say medical device companies, and one of your customers is medical device CEO, and you know that in his industry everyone is sort of following him and looking at what he's up to, because he's like a competitor and someone they look up to as an influencer, as a thought leader. And if you keep relationship or on LinkedIn with him, if you comment on his post, then of course you might attract from the same industry your other clients, because they might be asking like, what can you tell us more about the project that you're working with him? At least that's what happened to me.
Yeah, I mean that the person you're talking about falls into a number of these lists and categories, which is actually how it usually happens. Is somebody will be a past customer who currently refers you lots of business, and they're themselves becoming an influencer. It doesn't have to be, one person is only one of these categories. It's often pretty blended. But think about, number 3 list is influencers. Yes, ideally they're also an influencer you can build a relationship with. In some way. A lot of the business that Aware gets actually is from influencers who are happy with the product and talk about it. And I just build relationships with them and they talk about it. And it often comes into more. And I have recurring calls talking about the business side of things with a lot of LinkedIn influencers. And they, on the side, talk about Aware as well. So a lot of these lists are blended, right? Like the potential partner has a lot of overlap with number 3, right? Of influencers and thought leaders. You want to engage with people who are being followed by others who you want to work with as well. Because I know it sounds weird, but it's true that just sort of being seen doing business with the right people is the best strategy. A lot of pro fitness trainers don't charge their pro athletes for their training, because all they want to do is be able to say, I work with, so and so NFL player, and have that person say, yeah, I train with this guy, and that's all you need. So you don't charge them. You don't have like a financial relationship with them necessarily. You're just seen doing business with them. And it sounds
Yeah,
a little bit
that's a great
in a
example.
way, but it's
Yeah,
true. Honestly, it's just how a
this
lot of
is
business like
true.
that happens.
So in terms of the list four, another idea that comes to my mind for potential partners, from my experience again, is partners that you would love to do an event with, webinars. I think that one is definitely great because I am planning now events even for the 2024 second quarter, and a lot of people reach out to me that they would be interested in partnerships through my commenting or because of my commenting. Yes, existing partners, that's for sure, because if you already built partnerships with them on LinkedIn and also outside of LinkedIn, it means that you have some commonalities in terms of the target accounts. So that's for sure. You should be supportive to your existing partners and keep commenting on them, because they could, while growing on LinkedIn, they could bring more leads to you. Direct competitors, that's for sure. This is an interesting list in terms of what you should be doing and what you should not be doing. So please don't leave comments that are abusive to your direct competitors, because I mean, LinkedIn is quite vanilla platform, as they say, but just in case. Commenting on direct competitors does not mean that you should be sort of taking their leads and driving traffic to your website. And trailblazers, there are other, of course, concepts, but these are people with similar but more established businesses. So it could be that you are copywriter and you are just starting your business, but you know that someone already has maybe an agency and they built their business of copywriting, and you are just looking up to them. So they're sort of like a thought leader for you, but it's a very similar business to yours, and you just want to learn from them and build that relationship.
Yep. The 6 and 7 for me is pretty similar in that I advise people to mostly engage with highly similar businesses. If they're competitive, let them be larger than yours. So don't comment on direct competitors that are smaller than your business. Apart from that, go nuts. But like be authentic. Like you said, don't be rude. Don't try to steal their business. But if you think a like similar business that has a similar audience as you want to work with, and you think they are not correct in what they've been saying, like feel free to say something that's respectful but controversial. Feel free to disagree with them in public. That's a good way to build credibility if you were right. I do that pretty often. If somebody's just spouting stuff I think is harmful advice, I'll absolutely go in and say, I'll just explain why I think they're wrong. And I don't do that too often. That's not more than 1 out of 20 of my comments, but there's something to be said for being in the right when you are creating controversy, and you're not trying to you're not posting a link to your site. You're almost like going after their ideas, not their business. And that is
and expressing your experience. It could be it could be just expressing your I mean, I wouldn't do that like on values based on all that, but if it's, let's say, technical knowledge, and you see if someone is misleading,
exactly.
and I see that a lot, So one good example is yesterday there was this big Zendesk AI event, and a lot of misleading information started flowing. So I started like really, really attacking, because I just hate when, a lot of my clients are being misled by what AI could do for them. And yeah, and I cannot believe that, but I got maybe 20 contacts just asking me like, so how I should do this, how should do that. And what it all came out of that frustration, like literally when I said, no, please don't listen to this because it's just not the right thing for you at this stage. Yes. So it was really interesting, but I love your advice that definitely share your expertise where you see that people are being misled and it doesn't matter if it's your direct competitor, if it's existing partner, if it's influencer, thought leader, it doesn't matter. Just as long as you know it's true, as long as you want good for people that you are providing that knowledge, go for it, because sometimes I feel that LinkedIn is becoming just too vanilla in terms of that, like everyone is afraid to critique, not even critique, but to actually say the truth. Let's call it the truth.
True.
If you know it's true. Yeah. Okay, so we have 7 types of lists, the types of lists you have to build. Now, where do you get those lists? So of course, this table is definitely not final, because if we started putting all the lead sources that are available, that would be a lot. And I know that you mentioned Apollo. That's for sure should be on this list for almost every type of list that we added here. But for the target accounts and prospects, Sales Navigator is great. Apollo is great. Customers and referral partners, you should definitely find them in your CRM. Any CRM that you're using, HubSpot or Pipedrive, doesn't matter. Hopefully you have them clean and nice, ready for you. Influencers and thought leaders. So one tool that I want to mention is called Favicon. I tested it myself. I wasn't too happy about its ability to cut list to just 50 and not allowing me to download the list itself. So not happy with Favicon. If you sort of are ready for some manual work, their filters are great in terms of the industry and who has podcast or newsletter, but be ready for some manual work.
Yep, makes sense.
And in terms of list 3 and 4, I think definitely Aware beats any market tool.
You can build custom lists too. So Favicon is giving you its lists. We have some pre-made lists too in Aware, but we're always building more. And sometimes somebody will join and they'll be in a new industry and they'll say, well, do you have an influencer list for medical devices or something? I'll say, no, but I'm going to go build one. And then with a couple days, we'll turn around and we'll build a new list that shows people who are active and actually posting things on LinkedIn that get engagement with decision makers. So our lists are mostly based on who gets engagement with decision makers versus who gets engagement overall. So our lists are valuable in that they're very targeted to specifically director level and up, liking and commenting versus just anybody.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that. That's great. That makes so much sense, actually. That makes so much sense because, when we're thinking about these lists, if you go just to Sales Navigator or if you go to another tool, and it could be that you are not then actually engaging with the decision makers, and most, social selling operations, they want to reach decision makers as fast as possible. And if they're active on LinkedIn, that's the greatest one. But I love that angle that you only include decision makers. That's great. Existing partners, your CRM, again, direct competitors. Most likely you already have this list, but you can also find them further on Sales Navigator, and people with similar businesses, again, on the LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Another tool that I use and that can be implemented is called Feedly AI. So on Feedly AI enterprise level, you can get market insights on the specific changes. So let's say if you want to have a list to comment on companies that just announced that they got funding, or you want those signals, those buying signals, to be more targeted. It could be, let's say, they got the funding and they replaced their chief operations officer and this and that, like all of this. Then you can get a nice list of companies. So most likely there's going to be the article version, but I have created workflows for companies that reads that data and then it transforms to the list of the companies. And then, of course, there are workarounds how we can get those contacts to LinkedIn. So there are many tools around there. Like, we don't have a problem in terms of the sources of those lists. You just need to start sort of making decision what kind of list you are starting with. Is it all 7? Is it 5? Is it just 3? And then you can reach Alex or me and we can help you, to find those sources for your lists very fast. But just showing you initial sort of examples. Now, in terms of Aware, this is the hand-created influencer list that Aware is also offering, and as you mentioned. And as I said, Fabicon has these interesting filters where you can choose the industry, creators if they have newsletter or podcast, specific number of followers. But as I said, the list is up to 50 and you have to make sure that you're ready for manual work, just adding the names and finding them. And so that's one thing. Now, let's go to the best practice, how to write the comments. So let's imagine you built those lists, you added them to Aware. What happens next? You need to know how to comment. This is critical because if you just build the list, that's just one tiny step that you have to do, but you need to know how to write comments. So the commenting SOP that I posted about on LinkedIn in one of the posts promoting this event, the commenting SOP is very simple, to be honest. It's not even SOP. You need to be intentional. You need to add value. You need to have the right comment structure for readability. The comment structure means that it's not some secret code of comment. It's simply making sure that people who scroll and who look at those posts, and if they see the comment, the structure catches their attention and it's easy to read. And the comment visibility, how to increase comment visibility. So it's not just simple, long text with long paragraph. Very important. So 4 elements that we will be covering now. Let's talk about examples. Okay, this first example is showing you basically how I started the conversation, and then I received a question from Breakhold founder. I answered it, but then what happened is Nick, who I met on LinkedIn too, they mentioned me again, and that encouraged the CEO to actually contact me. So you see, it's started the line of events. I added very specific details once I got asked about them. I made sure that he asks me, yes. Well, I hoped. I can't make sure, yes. Yeah. I didn't DM him, please ask me about my comment, yes. I made sure that my comment triggers the question, hopefully. He asked for details and I added very specific details. Comment again has limits, so that's what happened. And that's how I got a call from this founder. So that's one example. What it tells you is intention. So this is the example from SOP about the intention. My intention was to catch his attention. Hopefully he will ask the details, how I save those 20 hours, and then I start sort of naming my strategies. Now, this is an example where it was a post about B2B data availability and the sources. And I mentioned that I did an event about this. I added even a screenshot because I want to make sure that it's understood. This is about the Feedly AI that I mentioned before. And I also added links. This link is from Feedly. This link is not to my website. This link is literally to Feedly. Like, I don't want people, to go to my website or to book to my Calendly. I want them to get value, because I feel that a lot of these B2B data sources is simply regarded as something that you go to a freelancer, you ask them to generate a long Google sheet, and that's your data source of B2B leads, which is horrible. But a lot of companies still do that, and I wanted to make sure that there are advanced level intent signal data available online, and it's really easy to get, and to make sure that it's timely. So today, time is critical. How fast you react to company changes, to target accounts changes, that's for sure important. So that's adding value. What about you, Alex? Like, when you are commenting, what are you trying to do in terms of these mentioned SOPs?
I'm careful about what I comment on. So number one, I don't comment on posts that would hurt my credibility. And in terms of adding value, I see that in a number of ways. I can add value through information, through inspiration, really anything that furthers my goal of being somebody that you can trust to buy from, which means you either like me a little bit more, or think I'm insightful or funny, or that I could solve the problem you want to be solved. And that's really what people want, is like, can I trust this person to solve my most burning pain point? If you can answer that and get at it from a bunch of different angles, then you can do it really well. Like, I'll leave a funny comment that has nothing to do with anything, purely because I want people to know that, we're not robots at my companies.
Yeah.
And that's enough. I can talk about marketing 80% of the time, but if I talk about 100% of the time, people will conclude that I'm just, a sales bot. So we don't want that. In terms of visibility, I like to engage with smaller, hungrier creators more than gigantic accounts, because usually engaging on people who have 100,000 followers or more isn't going to give you that much, because they're not going to notice. They're just gigantic. They're just kind of running their own, visibility machine. People who are trying to grow on LinkedIn, they're not at that 50, 100,000 follower mark, are usually more effective to comment on. So
Can I ask about the numbers, about what type of numbers you're usually looking at in terms of those commenting target accounts? Like, how many followers should they have that you feel it's worth commenting on?
So with Aware, leaving a comment takes me like 8 seconds. So I can really drive down that number of worth it threshold really low, because the time investment is super low. I can just I get in the zone, leaving 5 comments, and now I'm just like, boom, boom, I'm busting them out. So it doesn't really matter. But if I'm going to prioritize, I'm going to try to choose people who have 2 to 20,000 followers, probably. I mean, give or take a bunch, right? But that zone where they're not a professional influencer. I don't usually engage with professional influencers, because now I'm just part of their product, right? They're not trying to aggressively grow their relationship.
You feel being used.
A little bit, yeah. It's just like, okay, I'm contributing to your stuff. Like, that playbook doesn't really add much value, unless you want to excessively be the first one to comment on every influencer's post, which just, I don't I don't really buy that as an effective use of time for me.
I see. I mean, the reason why I'm asking this is because there's so many different advices. The advice I received initially was don't even spend your time commenting on people who don't have at least 10,000, followers. That was like sort of the most common number that, was thrown at me. I even had, several sessions booked with those, LinkedIn experts. Yeah, the amount of money I paid is horrible for sessions, and all of them they told me, please don't comment on those that have just 5,000 and 7,000. I'm like, but are you saying then that nobody will comment on me because I have just 2,000 followers? So what are you saying then? I'm hopeless. And yeah, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. But what I noticed is that most leads that came to me were from comments that I left from, I think, around 2,000 to 8,000, like that range followers. Like I didn't track like to that specific, but I think that would be the right assumption. So yeah, so I mean that's another myth, about all this practice. Like where should you comment in terms of the list themselves, the type of people, but also how many followers should they have and how you should be commenting. So it's really art and science at the same time, isn't it? Another thing, another example that I have in terms of a visibility, I sometimes what I do is, let's say if you have a comment which is actually a question to the author, yes. So to be honest, I don't care. If I feel I could contribute, I just answer the question. I know they expect, answer from the author, but I don't think that I'm really, like stepping my boundaries or something like that. If I could add value, if I could add, again, as you said, it can be a joke or something like that, or a GIF, for visibility, I do that. I just do that. So that's one thing that I remember several people asking me, like, should I comment on the comments? Or should I comment and ask and answer the question? Yes, you can definitely do that for sure. But in terms of visibility, if this screenshot is giving you an example how you can increase the visibility, because everyone loves those stupid things. Not necessarily love, they don't have to love, but they simply notice, and that's enough. That's enough for you to see the value out of it. So this is an example from the recent comment I made about the Airtable. So this was very bad news that Airtable is focusing only on enterprise clients. Everyone's going mad about it. And then I still mentioned their integration partners and their capabilities. That's not all lost. And I mentioned software. So I worked with them to build client portals. And I recently just got message and a call with one of their executives, because I think I made the right choice to comment on this specific post about the news in industry. So another thing that you should definitely not miss, if it's important news in your client's industry. In this case, it wasn't my client's industry, but it was the tools I'm working with industry specifically, but I reacted to it. And I simply mentioned also other comments. So mentioning, other companies, mentioning other contacts in the comments is another great strategy that I noticed, because everyone thinks that you should do that only in your posts. Like you shouldn't do that in the comments. I don't know why. What is your opinion here?
Definitely mention companies that you'd like to work with, partner with, or highlight in some way in your comments. It's a simple way to give something of value. I mean, you can add value to a company just by giving them a little bit of visibility, and they appreciate it. So you build a lot of goodwill with companies by giving them shout outs and visibility, especially obviously if it's true. Don't do that nonsensically, but if you have something valid to say, definitely mention companies you enjoy in comments. And that's a great way to build relationships with that company, because then their marketing team sees it, depending on how involved the executives are, they might see it too. And so that's a great strategy as well.
Yes, because I was surprised how those companies, when I mentioned them in the post or in the comments, they actually reply back. It could be just sort of small notification, but they follow that. They are engaging. That was really surprising to me to learn this year. I didn't expect so much support. I make sometimes slides where I mention several tools and companies, and they are really engaging in that. So another myth that we have to break for companies that are still not active on LinkedIn is that you will be surprised how active your partners that you want to work with, the tools, the technology partners, how active they are on LinkedIn. So definitely, if you're not doing that, you are missing out. And in terms of the structure of the comment itself, that's a good example. Just adding, making it as a checklist. That makes it more readable. Adding structure with icons, with emojis, both for the structure, for the readability, and also for attracting attention to your comment itself.
Yep.
So these are sort of my best examples. Now, we are already live for 1 hour. It's time to move to the AI. Yes, we cannot, survive this without mentioning AI. So the first thing that we want to tell you guys is that AI can help, but won't do the work for you. Yes, Alex?
Very true.
This is not a webinar about the AI doing work for you. But I want to be 100% transparent. When I am really in the lead generation mode, as I call it, as a solopreneur, and I don't have much time on my hands, I don't have billion virtual assistants around me running around and asking, what can we do for you? So what I do is I use these ChatGPT prompts. Let's say if I see a very interesting long post about specific topics that I'm interested in, I feel I want to contribute, or industry specific, I take that post and I use this prompts. I don't do it for every post, though. I want to be 100% clear. If it's a very technical post, especially for the technology people, and they feel they have to contribute, I don't think that ChatGPT just blindly would generate the same knowledge as you do have.
No.
So that I have to, I have to make it super clear. Like you saw the examples I gave, these were definitely not generated by ChatGPT.
Right.
So these 5 ChatGPT prompts is simply for generating more comments, for getting that visibility, for, I would say, very general, let's say, leadership, like those sort of philosophical leadership, managerial practices, posts that we see a lot and everyone loves them. It makes sense why. A lot of human psychology, interesting topics. It could be that you can use these ChatGPT prompts. Write me a compelling LinkedIn comment up to 500 characters that sparks a conversation in. Then you add your target audience role, let's say human resource managers if you're targeting them, on this post, and you copy paste that post text. So this is example. I think they can be definitely helpful when you are trying to really boost your reach on those sort of generic posts. And a lot of people, even it could be very technological industry that you're targeting, they would still be posting the human type, very human topics and psychology and sociology and about economy that you can then include ChatGPT for faster commenting. But if you are selling solutions that are technical, just demonstrate your knowledge. Just give 99% for free in the comments on LinkedIn. That's my best advice.
Agreed. I'm of camp. AI can be good for filling in gaps in what you might say. Like it can be good for checking, researching, but the point of being social and social selling is to make sure that your personality is coming through. That's a key part of it. So I can always tell when someone has a pure ChatGPT comment left on my post, and it's almost worse than nothing at all. I'd rather they just type a couple of emojis and hit send on the post rather than generating some robotext. So make sure to add your own stuff. Make it you, make it your own, and be a human. That's a big part of this. Or you just won't grow as fast. People will sometimes just get offended if you do AI comments on their posts too. So I would take this and really make sure you don't just use AI to do the work for you, like the title says.
No, definitely, because I noticed that too. I think everyone notices that. It could be that we notice, 70%, maybe, other 30% are so good that we don't notice, but still, this is, this operation, the social selling operation, as we called it, is a still human effort. It's a human effort that you have to put in. And the thing is, it can be really enjoyable because you will definitely see the results if you apply the knowledge that we just shared. It's impossible not to get the results. That's what I promise. This year I just posted, today it was my 92nd, 92 posts just. So it's nothing. I have just 2,740 followers, I think. And I am generating now, I think at this point, October, around 65% of my revenue just from LinkedIn.
Wow, that's huge.
So that's huge. That's huge. And just last week, I closed the biggest deal of my life, of my career in 7 years from LinkedIn comment.
Beautiful. Exactly what we want to hear.
Yes, I couldn't believe that, but that's what happened. And I think that yes, the commenting is definitely the answer in 2023. I don't think it's going away 2024, 2025, to be honest, because this is natural human interaction and providing knowledge, sharing your expertise. Like, I don't think that any technology or ChatGPT could replace that.
Yeah, I think so too. Been doing it coming up on 7 years, and I love that you closed your lifetime biggest deal. My lifetime biggest deal as well was closed from LinkedIn too. So it definitely makes sense.
That's great. I mean, I hope that this will definitely motivate and at the same time provide enough knowledge for our viewers to start this operation. And the final thing that I wanted to ask is how should and what tool should the team managers use for this effort?
So for managers and teams who are using Aware, should definitely go with the teams level. We called it that specifically because we have very CRM-like dashboards of activities. So if you want to know how many people are being messaged by rep in a specific time frame, and whether each rep is doing more or less than before, like you can see in here, you can see change within the rep over time, and also stacked versus other people. Not just for the inbound stats of how many people you post, or how many posts are you publishing, how many connections are you making, but also outbound messages, comments left on other people's posts. So it's the social selling inbound plus outbound method in one dashboard. If you're using Salesforce and soon to be HubSpot, you can also push all of any LinkedIn activity you desire from all these stats here to Salesforce as tasks. More CRMs coming soon based on demand, but
please do Pipedrive.
Pipedrive?
Yes, Pipedrive. A lot of my clients are using Pipedrive. They also want this, so that would be definitely great. But I think a lot of managers and the directors who need those KPIs about how comments left and comments received, how they correlate, and the prospects post views, etc. So this gives them everything. No excuse about I cannot report this, I cannot see how it correlates. So no excuses for executives for sure. And now we go to questions. Do you see how many people do we have live at the moment?
I don't actually.
You don't? Yeah, me too. I am on StreamYard now, so let's see if we get any questions.
I know we're way over time in case people dropped after their meeting.
So if anyone has questions, please. No, I don't think that we are receiving questions. So what I just wanted to say is that if you have any questions, any specific details about the data sources for building lists or additional tools or how to integrate all of this with your CRM, let us know. We will be answering questions both on LinkedIn and YouTube. You can always reach out to me and DM me on LinkedIn. And for agency services and where any questions can go to Alex. He is, of course, the best to reach. And thank you very much for watching this. I hope that you received enough value to launch this. Share details with us. So if you're starting this and you are hitting some wall, again, message me. I'm happy to answer. I'm LinkedIn every day, not 24 hours, but I am definitely every day. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next event. Thank you, Alex, for doing this, and I will see you soon.
Cool. Bye.